Okay, so you've received your system from TechFast, and what we're going to do is install the GPU. So if you've purchased particularly a high value GPU like one of the RTX series cards, we may offer to ship it to you to avoid or minimize the risk of damage in transit because it's a big heavy card. So first thing you do, you've taken it out of the box, you've got your tower here in front of you. What I recommend is putting something like a towel down on your flat surface just to minimize any potential scratching to the solid side panel. Lay it down the solid side panel side. These 4 screws here for the Esports Pro Case are thumb screws, so no need for a screwdriver with these ones. It might be done tightly, if so just pop a screwdriver in there, but generally done with the thumbs. Place the side panel down, and you can see here inside the motherboard, inside the case you've got the motherboard. Now we'll always have the PCI power. This is the 2 power cables you're going to plug into the GPU once it's installed. They'll always be set up for you. They might be 2 separate cables, or in this case from the power supply they're joined together, but they're going to be plugged into the power supply, and we'll always have them set up for you ready to go. So we've got our GPU here. It's a big heavy card from MSI. We're going to take it out. Obviously you can see here we've got this big set of gold pins here, and we don't want to touch that, but really anywhere else we can hold the card. Just make sure you're supported on both ends, make sure you're feeling confident. Pop that down. And then you can see here that we've got the back plate here for this Esports Pro Case. So using a Phillips head screwdriver, we're just going to unscrew that, and this just pops out like that. You can see here there's a PCI slot cover here because of the particular motherboard we've got. The slot inside the motherboard, or on the motherboard, is a little bit lower down, so we've got a slot covering that, a slot cover covering the first PCI slot. So then we've got 2 more. We're going to just undo the hex head screws on those 2. And then we're going to grab the card at the back here. So this section here plugs straight into the motherboard. We're going to hold it at either end, and we're going to plug it in. You can see you just need to maneuver the card so the gold pins are just lined up. You can also see that the very end of the card has 2 sort of pins there. They're not pins, but what they are sort of spaces, and they need to sit between the rear of the case and the motherboard. So when we install it, that goes between the motherboard and the rear of the case, and we're just going to push down until we hear it click. You'll notice also that there is one of these PCI guard covers here, and when that clicks in, when the card clicks in, that's going to flick up like that. So here we go with installation, popping it in. You can hear it click into position. Now before you stand the tower up, you can see here this is where those 2 hex head screws were originally, and they hold the GPU in place so that it doesn't sag down. So we're going to screw those in. And then we're going to pop this back plate back in position like that. 1 final hex head screw to hold it in position. Now we come around here, and you can see that we've got the PCI power cable. Now this is a big heavy RTX series card, a 2080, so it's actually got 2 different pins that you're going to be having to plug in, or 2 different sets of pins. Some of them may have 6-pin only, some of them may have 8-pin, some of them may have 2 lots of pins. So you can see here this particular power supply here has been set up for an 8-pin and a 6-pin. So what we do, they're keyed, so you can't put them in upside down. So you can see here it's got the little ledge here which has to go on the underside. Click it in, 1, and click it in, 2, and there you're installed. We've of course stress tested the system so that the drivers and all that's already installed into the system. So you can see here it's nice and secure. Pop the side panel back on. Do your thumb screws up, stand the system up, plug it in, and when you're plugging in your monitor, make sure that you're plugging in your monitor cable into one of these here. This is for the GPU. This here inside the silver shield is the I/O shield. You won't get a display if you've got a GPU installed, so you're going to have to plug your motherboard in here. We've got DisplayPort, HDMI, DisplayPort, so one of those cables needed. And good to go. And here we have one of our, again, our larger cases, the Leaper Pro. This comes in black and white. So again, pop your system down on the side on the protective surface to avoid scratching. Undo the 4 thumb screws for the side panel. Put that to the side. And then we're going to take off this back plate here, the L-shaped back plate. Slightly different than the one on the Esports Pro. but again held in place by screws. So 1, 2, 3. You can see here it's also got the PCI cover because the motherboard has some lower slots. Drop that down, and this is sort of free to wobble around, so we're going to take that out for now and put it in before we finish. Now we're going to grab the GPU and again just slide it in. You're going to hear it click. Here we go, we've got the backplate there, we've got the 2 legs there, and they plug into the 2 little channels there, so we'll go like this. Now you can see that to make it all line up, you just need to sort of align the pieces, push the backplate in, push the card forward a little bit, and then just push a bit down on the L plate, on the backplate, and that's going to just keep that card in position. 1 screw in, helps you to have a magnetic screwdriver as well. 1 there. 2 there, and then we're going to re-put in that PCI cover. You can see here that it has a little notch for the screw, so that goes to the top. Place that down between the motherboard and the rear of the case. Slide it underneath the back plate with your screw, and we'll screw that down. Come around here, we're going to plug in the 2 cables. Now this one, the last one, the PCI cables were coming above the GPU. This one's going to come underneath the GPU. No problem with that. So I'll pop it around because it's keyed. 6 with an 8 pin, and then we're just going to plug in the 6 pin here as well, like that. Just make sure that the cable's free. You can see the fans will spin under there. Make sure that the fan is free to spin. It's not going to touch any of the cables. You can push down on them. Not going to do any damage there. And then place the panel back on. And you're good to go. Again, I'm going to plug any display cables from your monitor into the back of the GPU here. DisplayPort, HDMI, DisplayPort. And that's all done.